This is Johnny Moreno, and I am interviewing my grandfather. Can you state your name?
James Masoner.
And where were you born?
I was actually born in Indiana, Indianapolis.
When did you move to California?
Uh, Permanently in 1979, but I was here twice, three times before in 1957 when I was in the Navy, and again in 1964 and 1968. And we moved here permanently in 1979.
You were in the Navy beforehand.
I
Uh,
was in the Navy for 22 years, yes.
and what were you doing? Like, were you stationed here in Gilroy, or were you stationed or around Gilroy?
No, the first time I was here in 1957, I was stationed down near San Diego for schooling. Then in 1964, I came here to Monterey, where I was taking the language. I took Arabic, and then in 1968, I came to Monterey again, and I took Russian because I was in the security service. And then in 1969, I met my wife. We got married. After 4 years, we were in Spain, and then we came back here in 1972, and we lived in Monterey until 1979, where I was teaching. And in 1979, I retired, and we moved here to Gilroy, and we've been here for 40 years.
Since '79 or like early '80s till now, what has changed the most about Gilroy?
Well, obviously the population. When we moved here in 1979, it was probably about 15,000. It was a very small town, like a lot of towns in the area. It was mostly agriculture, and probably the makeup of the town was probably about 65% Caucasian and about 35% Hispanic. Most of the Hispanic at that time were migrant workers who were here during the summer and fall, and then they left and went back to places like Texas and Arizona. After, and then of course, that's when Gilroy was really all agricultural. There were prune orchards, there were peach orchards, there were a lot of garlic and stuff like that. And the house that we're in right now, I watched it being built in 1979, and this used to be a prune orchard.
So you're saying back then there was a lot of agriculture, and if you look at it today, there is still agriculture around, but there's a lot more settlement, a lot more, I would say, like stores, and definitely more population. It's got a lot bigger than 15,000 now. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, like I said, when we moved here, this was a little small agricultural town, and over the years, land just got too expensive, and a lot of the ag land, agricultural land, was sold off to developers. And over the 80s and into the 90s, and even now, there's housing developments, and so Gilroy has went from being a small farming town to an actual bedroom community, because a lot of the people that have moved down here from, for example, San Jose and up north, still work up there and commute up there. So in the meantime, the population has kind of tripled. So I think we're over 50,000 now.
I believe it's like 55, yeah, right
That's
at the
about
moment. Talking about population, how has the population changed, not only population-wise, but like race-wise or things like that?
That's a good question. When we first moved here, as I said, it was probably about 65% Caucasian and about 35% Hispanic, and there was nothing else. There was no black or Asian community. Now both the Caucasian and Hispanic were been here for a long time. Remember, most of the families had lived here most of their life. As I said, there was a lot of migrant workers, but as the farmland was sold off over the years, we saw less and less of that, to where now it's became a bedroom community. But what has happened is that most of the migrant workers would not be able to afford the housing. So the people that have moved down from San Jose, many of them are Hispanics, and many of them were native to the U.S. They were born and raised here, work in the area of San Jose and north. But they got priced out of the housing up there, so they came down here. So over the past 40 years since I've been here, the population has probably changed from the 65-35 to now it's probably about 65-35 the other way, with Hispanic being the 65 and 35 or 40% would be non-Hispanic or Caucasian. There's a few blacks in town, but not a lot, and a few Orientals, Asians. But I would say the makeup of Gilroy is still mostly Caucasian and Hispanic, like it was before, except the percentages have shifted. And like I said, most of the Hispanics who have moved down here are native born. They were U.S. born, and they just came down here because it was cheaper to buy houses down here than it was up in the San Jose area.
Do you believe not buildings, what you call it, companies like Apple and Google, like coming down to the Silicon Valley, affected a lot, even all the way down here?
Yeah, I think it did, because a lot of the Hispanics who moved down here were forced out of housing up there, because a lot of the people that worked for Apple and Yahoo and ones like that, a lot of them were technicians, and they're pretty much a lot of college graduates, and et cetera, et cetera. So they came in and they bought up areas up even as far as like Palo Alto, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, and there's whole areas up there where they paid tremendous prices for houses, and a lot of the Hispanics who moved down here weren't in that tech group. They were more in white collar jobs and blue collar jobs, so they couldn't afford to compete for housing up there, and a lot of them just sold out and moved down here.
All right, thank you for your time. Anything else you want to say?
No, I just want to say that my grandson, it's a great guy. Give him a good grade.
I like it. Thank you very much.